What's up, guys? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And when you're watching this, I wanted to share this morning something that happened to me on Saturday, actually. And so I came into the office for a while, and before I realized it, I started to feel some really sharp pains at the back of my neck. And it scared me. I tried to. I figured, okay, maybe I had done something crazy at the gym, or but as time progressed, I realized I needed to run to the ER, which I did, and I had some checks done, and the only thing that was found was that I was stressed. My blood pressure level had elevated a little bit, but there was nothing else. The only underlying issue was that I was stressed, and yes, I have been stressed out a little bit, and I thought to myself, how can I be coaching people to deal with these issues, and I'm dealing with them myself? But isn't that why we coach? You see, some people think that, as coaches, we have the perfect life. No, our lives are just as messed up in many cases as our clients are, and sometimes even worse than our clients. Um, it's just how we've learned over time how to deal with them. And so, in my case, what I needed was the awareness of what was going on, and so I realized what was happening. Something that happens to many entrepreneurs. I had forgotten all the good things that were going on in my life and in my businesses, and my attention had been spent for the previous 4 or 5 days. I had spent more time thinking about the things that weren't going right as opposed to the things that were going right. I had forgotten to be deliberately grateful. And it's that deliberate gratitude that I want to talk about today. You see, as business people, as business owners, we already know that things will not always go the way we want. That's a given. The question is, how do we deal with those things that don't go well? Do we spend so much time thinking about them? Spend too much time thinking about the debt that you're in, about how things are falling apart? Or do you find time to be grateful for what is going well and then put a plan in place to deal with what's not going well? One of the reasons why many people, and especially entrepreneurs, because we're facing so much change, we get caught up in that state of fear and uncertainty and worry and stress, is because we are pre-programmed to be negative. I want you to listen to that. As human beings, we come into this world pre-programmed with a certain level of negativity. All right, and that's called, neurobiologists call it the negativity bias of the brain. And here's what I mean. Imagine you lived in the time previous or way before the industrial age. I'm talking about the earliest possible civilization, where the Stone Age, where we lived in tribes, and you were in the tribes and you were exposed to the elements. We're talking, mammoths and saber-tooth tigers, and it was survival of the fittest. When you live in such a time, you're always thinking about what could go wrong, and you're always trying to prevent that or trying to figure out, you're always on the alert. Well, those genes get passed down generations to generations. And today we find ourselves still worried about things that are not going right. We spend our time still being negative. And for those of us who have lived through civil war and we've seen some things that other people will only see in movies, it's even more real. So naturally, our brains are wired to be negative, to think about the wrong things, and to always be on such a fear alert. The way to deal with that and to prevent stress is to practice daily, deliberate gratitude. What are you grateful for today? You see, I'm a strong believer that the whole thing about medical depression, and I know medical practitioners may not agree with me, but based on the little that I've read and understand about depression, I think it really comes down to a person choosing not to find something to be grateful for, and they just see everything else as being crappy in their lives. There's a Persian proverb that says, I curse the fact that I had no shoes until the day I met a man with no feet. So yes, things may not be going well. Yes, you may be going through a season, but there are things to be grateful for. So if right now you're watching this and you find yourself in a space where your head is messed up, you feel stuck, things are not going well, you're worried about debt, you're worried about food, you're worried about corona, whatever it is that's got you feeling foggy in the head and messed up in your spirit, I want you to stop. I want you to grab your journal, and I hope you've got one. If you don't have one, grab a piece of paper right now, and we'll talk about journaling another day. But if you've got a journal, grab it, and I want you to list 10 things that you can be grateful for today. Listen, the fact that you can listen to me right now and comprehend what I'm saying is something to be grateful for. If you can read and write today, that is something to be grateful for. If you can say thank you, then obviously you need to be grateful for the ability to use your mouth to speak, because others can't. And if you have someone who says, I love you, if you have a wife, a husband, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, if you've got kids who love you, you best be grateful, because there's so many people who will give anything for that love. If you've got food to eat, if you're in great health, these are things that you need to be deliberately grateful for every single day. Be grateful for clean air to breathe. Be grateful that you've got clean drinking water. The other day I was listening to the radio, and I think it was in South Sudan or somewhere, and people were fighting over water, fresh water. And I'm sure in many other places there are struggles and fights and wars developing over fresh bodies of water. So if you've got access to clean drinking water, that's something to be grateful for. Be grateful for the trees, that they're able to absorb your carbon dioxide and give you fresh air. Be grateful for the people around you that provide these the services that you look down on. You know, it amazes me how many people look down on waste collectors, the garbage man, the garbage woman. Be grateful for them for keeping your environment clean. Be grateful for the people whose life are an example of what you should not become. Because you see in them what you will not be, and that has served as a lesson. So practice daily deliberate gratitude. There's so many things to be grateful for. In practicing deliberate gratitude, I want you to be aware of something that positive psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You see, when you put the treadmill on, or some people refer to it as hedonic adaptation. When you're on the treadmill and you're at a certain speed, you have to keep up with that speed. That requires consistent effort. Now, if you just allow yourself to want to return to a natural state, you know what happens, right? You fall. So, when it comes to gratitude and happiness, hedonic adaptation, imagine this. You get a car. You've always wanted this car, and then you either get the money to buy it or somebody gifts you it. And for the first month or two, you're super excited. Every day you're cleaning, you're wiping the car, you're making sure that there's no dust in it. And you know what you do with a new car. And 3, you start to see other people driving that car. Now 1, not 2, not 3. And all of a sudden, this new car that you were once excited about has become the new normal. And so what was once your source of excitement is just another day at the office. Again, even that statement that I just made, it's a testament to hedonic adaptation. Because when a person gets a new job, they're excited to go to work, and they will talk about it when they come home, all the different things that they're doing and all that. But then after 6 months at the job, you ask them, how was work today? Oh man, it was just another day at the office. So your mind has now returned to that natural inclination to return to your original state of happiness or lack thereof. So we must be alert and be aware. Gratitude allows you to fight that. So every day be grateful that you have a job in the first place. You see, I'm grateful that I get to do what I love, doing these videos, developing training programs that empower people to be their best, developing programs that allow people to start businesses and make an impact in the world, helping people find their passion and find their freedom that they value so much by leaving the corporate environment and still bringing value to the world on their own terms. I'm grateful that I get to do this every single day and have been for the last 10 years. So whenever it begins to get boring, I need to realize those aspects that I'm grateful for. Because when it gets boring, like I was talking to my friend yesterday, if something is boring, then maybe you're not paying attention to the right things. The same is true for our relationships. Why do you find people fall in love and they're excited, and then we call it new love? Because within a space of a year or two, they're shaky. And those of us who are married, we hear that the first 5 years, if we make it past the first 5 years, then we're good. Chances are you'll last longer. Simply because during those initial stages, the time comes when people start to take their mates for granted. The excitement is no longer there. We've returned to the normal state. So there are things we need to be grateful for. Make daily deliberate gratitude, make it a ritual. Make it something you do every day, just as you brush your teeth. I want to remind you that the world around you, you don't see as it is, you see as you are. So when you find yourself complaining about the external environment, it's a reflection of what's going on inside you. And yes, there may be things happening external that are not right, that should not be happening. But there are two things. You've either got control of it or you don't. And if you don't have control over it, then don't complain about it. Focus on what you have control over. And if you have control over what's going on that's not right, then do something about it. Until next time, be grateful. Later.